It's official. Everyone, it's official. The SEC just put you on notice that even your favorite NFT project might be a security that they need to investigate. Here's where it gets worse. We're not just talking about the fungible tokens they might have airdropped to you because you were holding their non-fungible tokens. The SEC is now also letting you know that it thinks sometimes it might have to investigate the NFTs themselves. But it's art. How can art be a security? Well, you art collectors, it looks like the SEC doesn't care at all if there's art incidentally tied to a token. They only care about the Howey Test. And unfortunately, given that our ancient securities laws never contemplated something like crypto, the SEC might have a good point. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss the SEC now investigating Yuga Labs, creator of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, Charles once again being interviewed by mainstream media, NMKR adding decentralized identity to NFT collections, MuesliSwap kicking off its liquidity bootstrapping event, and IOG beginning the run-up to its Lace wallet release. If your first thought upon seeing this image was, nowhere to hide, huh? If this guy would stop romancing the tree and just stand sideways, there would definitely be a place to hide. Or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Also, don't forget, Thursday, that's tomorrow for most of you listening right now. Tomorrow, Thursday, will be the kickoff of long form on this channel. I'm really excited about it. We have a really great first guest, Yarrick from Axo, a very interesting person in the Cardano space. This podcast is going to go down live. We're doing it live at 8 p.m. UTC, 10 p.m. CET, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Bangkok, 7 a.m. Sydney. Please tune in if you can. Have you ever noticed that whenever Bloomberg is reporting on something in crypto, it's usually bad news for crypto? Bloomberg is like the Grim Reaper of crypto news, or at least it's the Grim Reaper's like low rent cousin. This headline is Bored Ape creator Yuga Labs faces SEC probe over unregistered offerings. Wall Street regulator is examining whether NFTs are securities. And this subheadline should be concerning for people because this is some new territory here. And of course, Yuga Labs, if you don't know, is the entity behind the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Lately, the most famous NFT collection, even though CryptoPunks is the original and arguably most famous, I think Bored Ape Yacht Clubs definitely gets its share of the headlines. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is investigating Yuga Labs over whether sales of its digital assets violate federal law. The SEC is examining whether certain non-fungible tokens from the company are more akin to stocks and should follow the same disclosure rules. So this is important. The SEC is investigating the NFTs. A lot of people in crypto are definitely under the impression that NFTs are somehow immune to securities regulation because they're art. We're just a bunch of art collectors. Certainly we don't care about the possibility that these fungible tokens will, be attached to certain revenue streams or that they can be flipped. I guess you could say that art pieces could be flipped, and they definitely, in a lot of cases are expected to appreciate in value or at least have that potential. But there's definitely this perception that somehow art being attached to non-fungible tokens makes them somehow immune from securities regulation. Not so, according to the SEC here. They say Wall Street's main regulator is also examining the distribution of ApeCoin, so the fungible token, which was given to holders of Bored Ape Yacht Club and related NFTs. Mainly, probably, they're referring to the Mutant Ape Yacht Club NFTs. The cryptocurrency was created in part for Web3. They had to get that buzz term in there. If it's anything having to do with the metaverse or NFTs and you are a journalist, you certainly must throw in the buzz term Web3. Otherwise, people will have no idea what you're talking about. They say the cryptocurrency was created in part for Web3, a vision of a decentralized internet built around blockchains. They're letting you know that it's only a vision. Visions can evaporate. Yuga hasn't been accused of wrongdoing, and the opening of an SEC probe doesn't mean the agency will sue the firm. I like how ever since the Ripple SEC litigation, the assumption is if any sort of wealth-laden crypto company is accused of wrongdoing by the SEC, their automatic reaction will be to sue the SEC. It automatically becomes a battle of litigators. So Bloomberg is letting you know here, not necessarily. Here's Yuga Labs' response. It's well known that policymakers and regulators have sought to learn more about the novel world of Web3. We hope to partner with the rest of the industry and regulators to define and shape the burgeoning ecosystem, Yuga said in a statement. As a leader in the space, Yuga is committed to fully cooperating with any inquiries along the way. Going after a PFP NFT collection is a pretty big step by the SEC, but unfortunately, it probably wasn't too unpredictable. As far back as March, lawyers familiar with securities law were posting tweets like this. Hearing Ape will have a massive 5 to 6 figure airdrop, staking Ponzi-nomics, and, quotes, utility in a game that does not exist. For those filling out CRC Securities Risk Scorecards at home, gotta wonder how every centralized exchange got on board with this. So this is back in March of this year. But what is a CRC Securities Risk Scorecard? I believe the reference there was to this, the Crypto Rating Council's Securities Framework Asset Ratings. So how does this work exactly? Well, we've got a scale. It is 1 to 5. A score of 1 means the council's analysis found that an asset has few or no characteristics consistent with treatment as a security. A score of 5 means the council's analysis found that an asset has many characteristics strongly consistent with treatment as a security. And it looks like they've gone ahead and scored a whole bunch of projects for you. So you can see if this matches up with the way you might have scored these projects. And then we'll get into the criteria. But they're saying that Algorand is a 2. That's pretty good, almost a 1. Augur, 3.75. Basic Attention Token is a 2. Bitcoin is a 1. Chainlink is a 2. Cosmos, 3.75. Decentraland, 3.75. Bad news for metaverses. Dash is a 1. DAI is a 1. And I mean, not all metaverses, but metaverses who operate in the same way as Decentraland, maybe, according to the CRC at least. EOS, a 3.75. Ethereum, a 2. Ethereum Classic, a 2. Zen, a 1. Hedera Hashgraph, a 3.75. Foam, a 3.75. Litecoin, a 1. IOTA, a 2. LivePeer, a 3.75. Monero, a 1. Maker, a 3.5. We could go on and on here. But you notice a pattern. A lot of the newer blockchains are getting higher scores. And a lot of the original, sort of first generation blockchains, like we could I guess you'd have to say that Litecoin is maybe second-ish generation, but in the sense of smart contracts and programmability, we always say that Ethereum was 2.0. So we're kind of saying that Litecoin is in the same generation as Bitcoin, even though Litecoin sort of came after Bitcoin. But the point is, some of these older blockchains are scoring 1s. Everything else is scoring 2 and worse. So XRP, a 4. This is kind of interesting given the XRP SEC litigation. And again, this is apparently these are just the numbers according to the Crypto Rating Council. And of course, no one who is a gigantic rabid fan of XRP is going to give XRP a 4. So you can imagine people with different agendas would probably award different scores here. Of course, ratings mean nothing if you don't know what the criteria is. So we go to this page they have called The Framework, and we see their asset rating framework. And no surprise at all, what we find is a rundown of the Howey Test and its 4 primary components. Was it an investment of money in a common enterprise with an expectation of profit solely from the efforts of others? And here they have a paragraph for you breaking down each one, but we can also go just directly to the scorecard. But we don't have to look at just any scorecard. or even a blank scorecard, we can look at the Crypto Rating Council scorecard for Ethereum. And just a reminder, this is a 1 to 5 grading scale. 1 is it's looking like it's probably not consistent with treatment as a security. 5 is it's really looking like it would be treated as a security. So the way you get a 1 is by having 3 or more prongs that have scored below 100. So 3 or more have scored below 100. So you want a lower score. You don't want to be racking up points. You want to be lower scored if you don't want to look like a security. Number 5 would be all 4 prongs are 100 or greater. Both prongs 3 and 4 are above 250, or one of prongs 3 or 4 is above 300. So many ways to fail this test. Let's go down and take a look at how Ethereum did, and we'll also look at some of the questions so you get an idea of what kinds of things they're looking at here. Did purchasers contribute fiat or digital currency in exchange for tokens? They give Ethereum a plus 100 because they did have an ICO. That is the investment of money prong. So right there, they've kind of blown the investment of money prong. But you can see with some of their questions, they're going to give them plus points. So are they going to give them negative points? Like over here on this one, because they have proof of work mining, they added a negative 20 to efforts of others because the proof of work mining in Ethereum is basically permissionless. So you could go ahead and do that. That they say that's a negative 20, which is good. You want lower points, so negative is good. So even though they blew prong 1 in the very first question, if they get some negative points, that can help them out in that category. We come down here, we see they got another plus 50 on prong 1. They get a couple negative 75s. We come down here, and oh no, they have blown prong 2. Do token holders share any increases or decreases in value of the token? They get a plus 100 for prong number 2, common enterprise. So they've blown that one. Now they've blown 2 prongs down below here. Do token holders receive payments or fees in any form as a result of holding the token? They get another plus 75 on that one. And they also got a plus 100 for prong 3, reasonable expectation of profits. So if these were the only scores, they would already be in terrible shape on 3 of the 4 prongs. But of course, they're going to get some negative points down here for various things. They got some negative points here, negative points through here. They got a plus 40 over here on, I believe, this is prong 4. Is that right? Prong 4, yep, efforts of others. They got a plus 40 for if the project team ceased to exist or be involved in the project, would the value of the token be significantly reduced? So we won't go through all of these categories. In fact, we'll just, this is a great one though. The project team allocate a share of tokens to themselves. They got a plus 50. Again, remember, plus scores are bad. A plus 50 on prong 2 and a plus 20 on prong 4. For allocating tokens to themselves. We won't go through all of these different questions though. We'll skip right to the answer. They got a 2 out of 5. So 1 being the best, 5 being the worst. They got a 2. And the reason was on prong 1, they got a 100. So they failed prong 1. On prong 2, they got a 240. They failed prong 2. And then on prong 3 and 4, they got sub 100. So they had 2 above 100 and 2 below, which meant they got a 2. 2 prongs have scores below 100 and 2 prongs are 100 or greater. They almost got a 3 though. 1 prong has a score below 100, 3 prongs are 100 or greater, and no prong is above 150. They almost could have gotten a 3 or even worse because they had this score in prong 4, which was a 95, almost a 100. And they had this prong here, prong 2, which was almost a 250. So Ethereum kind of barely squeezes by with a 2. You may disagree or agree with the approach of the Crypto Rating Council, but it's pretty easy to see why attorneys clear back in March were already sort of raising, I don't want to say the red flag, but at least raising a yellow flag about whether or not regulators might inquire about certain NFT projects like Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's interesting to look at this question right here about whether or not token holders have the ability to stake tokens and act as nodes. So the CRC gave Ethereum a plus 30. Plus scores are bad on this one. And I assume it's because of this note. ETH holders can become a validator by depositing 32 Ether. Alternately, Ether holders can join a staking pool. So obviously, if it requires this very large amount of Ether to become a validator yourself, you are probably going to have to join a staking pool, which means you are relying on the efforts of others. Whereas in Cardano, the minimum to self-stake is very, very small. It's almost insubstantial, the minimum. We certainly don't have this 32 ETH level threshold. So it can only be assumed that Cardano would get a much better score on this question in the through the efforts of others category. There's something on the first page of this ETH scorecard report from the Crypto Rating Council that everybody in Cardano should be aware of. I've seen some people comment in the past that it seemed like Charles was complaining all the time when it seems like the community and the ecosystem are overruling him on something. And he's talking about how, the members of the community, the SPOs or whoever it might be, are kind of overruling him and not doing what he wanted. People think this is Charles complaining. That's not what's going on there. If you look at this little block down here, certain assumptions, it says, it is unclear whether there have been updates to Ethereum adopted by the network that were not supported by the project team. If there have been, the prong 4 score may decrease. If there have not been, the prong 4 score may increase. So what the Crypto Rating Council is saying here is that if there have been updates to Ethereum that were adopted by the network that were not supported by the team behind the network, then the score gets better. If the only updates that have passed were things that were supported by the project team, then the score gets worse. So Charles isn't complaining when he's saying, hey, look, the community is overruling me here. The community is not doing what I wanted. He's laying a paper trail. Charles isn't complaining. He's being a genius and protecting us by laying a paper trail, showing that the community has control over certain things in the ecosystem. It's all not just IOG, which really helps out when considerations like this come into play, which are often the case. A measure of decentralization is whether, in Cardano, it's going to be whether IOG always gets its way or the community can sometimes overrule IOG. Charles is just being a genius and laying the paper trail to prove out that prong of any kind of examination like that. Charles was once again interviewed by Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business. And of course, he did a great job as usual. And even if Fox Business is not your brand of media outlet, think about it this way. Anytime we can get Cardano on mainstream media, it's probably a fantastic thing. She asked him about the relationship between current macro trends and what was happening in the crypto markets, about Coinbase opening up Singapore, and even about Vossel, which kind of surprised me. Cardano got kind of a nice surprise this morning from Patrick Tobler and our other friends at NMKR. We saw this post. Today is a historic day for Cardano NFTs. Decentralized identities have finally arrived in NMKR Studio. And it looks like this was done via SIP66 together with IMX Identity. That SIP allows creators of NFT collections to connect their decentralized identifiers with NFTs. This allows creators to directly connect their identity to their NFTs. They give you a little graphical tutorial on how to do this. And then they say, by creating their own digital decentralized IDs and connecting them to their NFT collections, creators can verifiably prove that they're really who they say they are. We believe this is an important first step toward less fraud, rug pulls, and identity theft on the blockchain. They say, together with the Tall Prism and an unprecedented amount of amazing partners, we presented this solution at CNFTCon and will soon be releasing the very first Atala Prism book issued by Book.io that will be utilizing this solution. More info about this soon. This is fantastic. So you can see when you're in this step number 2, you'll be redirected to the IMX Identity NFT identity website where you can connect your social accounts to your new digital identity. Back in NMKR Studio, you can then mint the collection token with one click. This will permanently connect your new digital identity with the NFT collection on chain. So this is kind of interesting. This will be a way for the creators of NFT collections to link their social media accounts with their NFT collection they've created. So it'll be much easier to tell, we'll have on-chain evidence of who actually created what NFT collections, as long as the creators actually go into NMKR and do this. You can imagine, I mean, in the comments, immediately people were asking, hey, but how soon that this could be connected to something that looks like KYC? And you can imagine there are probably myriad use cases where you might want to connect not just an NFT collection, but maybe an individual NFT to, say, a KYC'd real world identity. You can also imagine many use cases where you absolutely do not want that. But I think the important thing is here, we're connecting digital identity to NFTs, and this opens up a whole new world of identity in Web3. We'll see where this goes. Speaking of adding utility to NFTs, MuesliSwap is kicking off their Milk liquidity pool bootstrapping events. So if you're listening to this video on the day it comes out, this will start today, the 12th of October. Looks like, according to this Medium article, it runs through the 22nd of October. And this will operate via a mechanism similar to the zap-in function on MinSwap. You'll zap in with your ADA and get this Milk LB token. And here's where the NFTs come in. You can also boost your earnings through the use of one of MuesliSwap's Hungry Cow NFTs. I know a lot of people bought those NFTs and they've probably been waiting for a chance to use them. MuesliSwap is telling you this is your chance to use it. As always with DeFi things, I have no idea if this is a good idea, a bad idea, if this is something you should do or you shouldn't do. I'm not giving you any kind of advice like that, just making you aware if you are a DeFi person, and probably especially if you own one of those high boosting Hungry Cow NFTs, you might want to come into this Medium article and see what MuesliSwap has got going on for the next 10 days. As always, I like to give you full disclosure on these kinds of things. I will remind you that I own a bunch of MuesliSwap assets, including Milk, Snow, and even some Hungry Cow NFTs. Finally, it looks like IOG has begun the run-up to the unveiling of Lace. They say Lace is a secure browser-based platform that allows you to hold your private keys and share the public keys. You can store digital assets, make transactions, view NFTs, delegate to stake pools, and connect to dApps. More than just a wallet, Lace.io is your platform for Web3, and they dropped this nice video telling you all about public and private keys. You can tell the video is really aimed at a very general audience. I'm excited to see what the Lace wallet brings to the table. We saw a big video presentation all about Lace last year at the Cardano Summit that was in September of last year, a full 12 longer now, almost 13 months ago. So a lot of anticipation has been building for a long time about the release of the Lace wallet. I believe the timeline for the unveiling, at least, of the Lace wallet was going to be the Rare Bloom Summit, which is happening in just a few days here, just a handful of days. I'm really excited. We already have some fantastic wallets in the Cardano ecosystem, like Eternal. I'm super grateful to have the Eternal wallet because it gives me a view into the actual UTXOs in my wallet that I never really had before. But I'm also very excited to see what Lace brings to the table. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, the very first episode of Long Form on this channel with Yarek.